Okay, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We've just got 1 minute to go and we will start in 2 or 3 minutes, I would say. Thank you.
Hello, Ramesji. Can you hear me? I'm Krishna. I don't see myself here. Hello.
Okay.
Yes. Hi. Yes.
We
Okay,
can.
okay, good.
Thank you so much for joining, sir. We're honored to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
And once again, we'll just give it 1 or 2 more minutes.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much to everyone who's joining us. Да, хотела бы сказать добро пожаловать все наши русскоговорящие участники. И хотела тоже заметить, что мы будем предлагать русский перевод, к сожалению, не сегодня, а для следующего вебинара. И мы будем сообщить, да, когда это будет. Это будет в декабре 3-го о International Waterbird Census, и это тоже будет с русским переводом. Спасибо за ваше понимание, что мы не смогли бы это делать сегодня, а уже следующий вебинар будет с русским переводом. Спасибо. I'm just saying that actually we're not able to have a Russian translation simultaneous for this webinar, but we will be providing this in the next webinar in December. Okay, so let's just wait 1 more minute. Participants are still coming in. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so it's 4 past the hour or 4 past half past. depending on where you're joining us from. So I suggest that we begin. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Catherine Hall, and I'm a co-chair of the Central Asian Conservation Network. And it's really with great pleasure that I welcome you to the third now of our webinar series on bird conservation in the Central Asian Flyway. And in fact, I'm very pleased to say that I'm actually joining you right now from Kochi in Kerala in India, and sitting next to the CACN Science Coordinator, Dr. Ramesh Kumar Selvaraj. And in fact, we're joining you from KUFOS, the Kerala University of Fisheries and Ocean Studies, and indeed from one of their fisheries labs. So just to begin, a few brief words about the Central Asian Conservation Network. So as many of you know, the CACN, it's a regional platform that is building transboundary conservation action in Central Asia and along the 30 countries of the Central Asian Flyway. And also, as you know very well, with a focus on migratory bird and habitat conservation. The CACN is a network of national and local conservation organisations, conservation practitioners and experts, and we currently count 25 organisations in 13 countries and over 50 experts as members. And our work on the Central Asian Flyway is conducted through various working groups, and some of these are the working group on key sites in the Central Asian Flyway. We also have working groups on the conservation of geese, cranes, vultures, and waders. We have an expert group on green energy developments and conservation, and also a working group on ringing and tagging, and a working group for volunteering and internships and youth. So very warm welcome to all of those of you who are also members of those working groups. So, of course, a cross-cutting issue for migratory bird conservation in the Central Asian Flyway is illegal killing and trade. And so I'm very glad that we have the opportunity to address this really very important topic in today's webinar. So today we will firstly be hearing from Dr. Krishna Prasad Acharya, who is the Secretary General of the South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network, or SAWEN. And we are lucky to welcome him, and he will be speaking on South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network's role in addressing wildlife crime in South Asia. This talk will be followed by Ms. Kali Kabayeva, the illegal IWT project manager in Central Asia with Fauna Kyrgyzstan, and she will be speaking on illegal trade of birds in Central Asia. Mr. Ayub Alawi, who is the CEO of the organisation Rewild, will then be presenting on illegal killing and trade of demoiselle cranes in Afghanistan. And lastly, but not leastly, we will be hearing from Mr. Mohammed Jamshed Iqbal, who is the Senior Manager of Research and Conservation with WWF Pakistan, and he will be talking about illegal killing and trade of birds in Pakistan. So I would very much like to thank the Ornithological Society of the Middle East for their support. And I see we have several representatives of OSME with us at the moment. And without OSME, this webinar series would not be possible. So thank you very much. And without further ado, I will now hand over to Dr. Ramesh, the CACN Science Coordinator, and he will be introducing our speakers and will be kicking off the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Good evening, everyone. So we have been, thinking of this webinar, when we started, CACN started organizing the webinar series because we know it's a, serious issue, the illegal killing and, trade in birds in Central Asian Flyway. Across the Central Asian Flyway, this, IKTB remains a major challenge, and it's mainly driven by, subsistence hunting, market demand, cultural practices, and also, weekly regulated trade routes in some parts at least. And also for the birds at key stopover and wintering sites in South Asia, also in Central Asia, in some parts of Middle East, we, still see widespread trapping of water birds, raptors, and passerine, and it was also reported in the Central Asian Flyway situation analysis done by the BirdLife International. And mostly the vulnerable species are hit hardest, disturbing their movements and undermining the conservation efforts across the flyway. So without wasting so much time, let's hear from the experts who are fighting on ground on this issue. Let me introduce the first speaker, Dr. Krishna Prasad Acharya. So Dr. Krishna Prasad, he serves as the first Secretary General of South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network, that is SAWIN. With over 30 years of leadership in forestry, biodiversity, conservation, and environmental governance, he brings deep expertise in both national and transboundary conservation. Prior to the role at SAWIN, Dr. Acharya held several high-level positions within the government of Nepal, including DG, the Director General of Department of National Park and Wildlife Conservation, and also with the Department of Forest. And he has been like the secretary at the Ministry of Ministry of Forest and Environment in Nepal, and he has been shaping Nepal's conservation policies, protected area management strategies, and transboundary initiatives. Dr. Krishna ji, over to you.
Thank you, Ramesh and the team of CACN for giving this opportunity. First, let me try to insert my presentation.
Yes.
Okay, if it does work, then so it can be seen now, no?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so thank you for this opportunity, as I said before. And I will be just highlighting what is this SAWIN, and then the South Asia trade very briefly, and also the understanding of illegal taking and killing of birds and wildlife trade, and some way actually how we can move forward together. So South Asia, we know is we have 8 countries from South Asia politically. And then this country are come together. This country came together in early, let's say 2010-11, and then agreed to work together for the cause of conserving species. And then these 8 countries are Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Maldives, and Sri Lanka. The objective of South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network is to combat illegal wildlife trade, and it is recognized as an intergovernmental agency, and we support the law enforcement for member countries. There are 4 key objectives of SAWIN. The first is because the countries, maybe we all know each country has a different law and policy, and they differ each other. So try to harmonize the policy of member countries, and also do some research on illegal wildlife trade and associated trade. And one of the activity now, until now, we are with high priority implementing is the capacity building of law enforcement agencies. Basically, we work with CITES law enforcement agencies among 8 member countries. And also is to encourage member countries to prepare a specific IWT, illegal wildlife trade related action plan, and their implementation. So this is our key objective of SAWIN. So I saw there is an overlap. South Asia is not in let's say Iceland standalone. So these flyways extend. There is overlap. As I already said, there are 30 countries in CAF, and there are 8 countries in SAWIN, and these countries are overlapping with the African, Eurasian, and East Asian, Australasian flyways. Means all the discussion, decision, policy making from each of the capital or each of the region influence the movement and the conservation of species, the birds, to other regions. So it's very important, dimension to consider. So I just went through. Maybe all of you are very much aware of this Central Asian Flyway situation analysis. 605 migratory, 40% declining. And then the report also highlighted that legal and illegal capture and hunting of adults and youngs is one of the major threat for migratory birds. But it doesn't specifically, identify the way, and it's not much advanced in terms of the capture, the scale and nature of illegal trade that follows the hunting. So this is precisely maybe in our region where SAWIN and our enforcement partners can add value by documenting and analyzing the trade dimension and feeding that information to CAF for that level of planning. So illegal wildlife trade, this report is United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, we call UNODC, which was published in 2024, and this is the fourth of its kind since 2010. And the report has found that more than 160 countries, some level of seizure of illegal wildlife trade part was made in the 5-year time. And as I think there are literature, it is one of the, let's say, one among 4 organized crime, transnational organized crime. And this period identified about 600 species engaged in transnational, and where South Asia occupies about 9%. And this 44% of seizure, interesting, is involving live animal tests, mainly for pet. Means many of the birds can also go with the pet. And South Asia initially was producer and transit region, transit countries for the illegal wildlife trade. There are very fewer cases of consuming. But you can see now, there are big news coming from the region. This South Asia region is now increasingly being converted into consumer, mainly for birds and mainly the pets and the live animals. We have seen several examples from different countries of the region. There are in one or two where there is engagement of South Asia now is increasingly becoming consumer. Even I was with my colleagues in Maldives discussing in a meeting, and there is a huge growing problem with the tourism, mainly the pet, birds, and eggs actually carrying through the airport mainly. They don't have much of the plant on the animal side, and import, and there is very weak governance, and import is pressurized for birds and eggs. And then this Caesar again shows about 70 out of that species that I mentioned, about 6,751 species are related, are the birds in Caesar that was made, and the 40% have been classified as near threatened species, means according to IUCN Red List, means the wildlife crime. Again, just to note to you, this wildlife crime report is based on country submission of annual report to the CITES Secretariat. Means there are several cases which are not reported. So that is the minimum case. So how UNODC has defined wildlife crime is if illegal hunting or any violation of national regulation and all of unlawful killing, capture, or possession of wild animal is wildlife crime. So, and the trade, anything from that species, illegally taken birds, eggs, meat, feathers, or stuff, body, they are transported, sold, and that also comes under UNODC. So while going through the literature on these birds, birds, let's say, sector or theme, is a very commonly used word is illegal hunting and trade, or illegal hunting and killing of migratory birds or killing of birds, and it's really the terminology of wildlife crime or illegal wildlife trade has been used. So I think in more broader sense, to make this understanding to more wider audience, I think we can also use this wildlife crime. So it's maybe this is one of the reason that birds issues are not much highlighted in this crime, global crime scenario. So I think this also could be one important point to consider. The last point here, bullets as very clearly spell that illegal hunting and trade of migratory birds is wildlife crime because it involves unlawful killing and taking of birds, their parts, collected, they are transported and sold in the contravention of national hunting laws, bird protection laws, and treaties maybe CMS and CITES. All member countries all are with the CITES, but very few are with CMS. Not all countries have joined CMS from the region. So what we have observed increasingly, we can see that there exists some level of physical crime, but very recently, all this crime has been shifted to cyber-enabled crime. And so, physically, we can see very few people now, walking in the streets selling the birds. And so, and it is also linked with the money laundering. And now the crime has shifted to lesser known species. And as I said, South Asia now emerging as a live trade destination. I mean, these are some of the important, emerging picture of illegal wildlife trade in South Asia. So it's a very complicated, it's not very easy and straightforward. It doesn't mean that the person engaging or the group or the mafia group engaging in one crime, they limit themselves into the one, that only. They are very much, there are different studies, even UNODC, the latest report has highlighted crime convergence. Same group of people, same route, same places are being used by for different types of crime. Either it is money laundering or weapon or human trafficking, drug, everything, or cyber crime. All these are connected. So, and they are very much sophisticatedly using now technology. So we should also be able to use technology more effectively than the criminal group in order to stop or prevent the crime. So it's very this slide shows about the porous border of South Asia. Maybe this mostly implies for physical trade that used to be history in the past. We have very long India, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, 4,000, and the trade is like the species like tokay geckos, freshwater turtle, parrots. Parrots are very common, and parrots and the falcon, I think, among the birds are very common in our region also. India, Myanmar, 1600. India, Nepal, 1700. So, I mean, there is huge porous border, which is not possible by guarding and protecting, them by one country or other countries. So, we need very much, collaboration among the member countries. So, this wildlife is about wildlife cybercrime from GITOC. There is Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, which do produce, this dashboard. And from the region, they study continuously on three countries: Nepal, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. You can see, birds are everywhere. Falcon is in Bangladesh, falcon is in Pakistan, and parrots. The parrots are the biggest in India. Maybe the big picture is with India, and then the two parrot, turtles and parrot is from Pakistan, and falcon is from Bangladesh. So you can see, these are based upon their research of GITOC. It's a very recently they started this phenomenon, and we need now to be ready in order to tackle this emerging crime that are global initiation going on. So they are working to establish this database system on wildlife crime in South Asia, where if we now work on collectively, there is a possibility of how we can include these migratory birds to recognize as a wildlife crime. Increasingly, as I said, there are several news coming, African gibbon coming from Africa, or exotic animal coming from Africa, and then snake and reptiles all coming from East Asia, Mumbai coming from Thailand or Chennai, or different region, mainly the India. Then I also have observed, shipping, all big ship carrying anaconda and several species from Australia and Latin America to Sri Lanka. So all countries in the region, in one or another way, are now seen with different diverse and previously lesser known. We can see very rarely the case of now, tiger is skin export or rhino skin in the region. But we can see these new species, pangolin, which were not initially recognized. And our custom department, in the Indian Revenue Department has already, recognize that now money is being paid through cryptocurrency, and so it's very difficult to trace. And they use social media like Snapchat, which disappear in a few minutes time. So the trade itself is increasingly going to be non-traceable, means very difficult to investigation part. So we also conducted a study, and again the case is the same. South Asia also, we didn't find any case from Maldives, and Afghanistan was difficult to trace. Maldives and Afghanistan and Bhutan very few. Otherwise, in 5 countries from South Asia, we are very much identified and found the case of cyberspace use for illegal wildlife trade. And there are several bird species you can see. Falcon, I think Falcon is one of the common, maybe the migratory species also coming from Siberia. They are captured and traded. So when they are captured and sold in the market for the purpose of getting money, it means it should not be the birds illegal, the migratory birds issues now should not be only limited to capturing and killing of species. Now it should go beyond that and can now need to consider it's as a illegal wildlife trade and it's an environmental or wildlife crime. If we can, gray parrot all coming from Africa and in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, I think these are pictures from Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and Pakistan. The study, maybe I think many of you are here, the scale of and the issue in the report, there are cases from Bangladesh and India, and we have also found the cases in the published paper from illegal from Katua et al., where more than 100,000 this bagadi they are called it as a bagadi bird. They are wild birds and bunting species. Some are very endangered species, and this is the average number for a year. You can just imagine how many bird have been killed during this. And then there is a trade of the owl. Initially, there was a trade route from an owl, I know, coming from Bangladesh to Kathmandu and then going to Middle East. Now also it does exist from Afghanistan. It goes to Iran. Another from Afghanistan it goes to Pakistan and then Middle East. From Bangladesh it goes to Pakistan and then Middle East. If now anything goes to now Myanmar, then we don't know where it goes because it's very difficult to trace once it enter into the Myanmar, and Myanmar is bordering to South Asian countries. Is I think bordering with India also, Pakistan also. So there is very much increasing trade, and it's a very old 2010. The thousands of wolves traded in black magic in India. I think it was a report by Traffic. So there are several research. When the trade maybe it's all is recognized as a sign of Lakshmi. So during Diwali festival, it's a very huge increase in the trade. And status there are 2 or 3 case studies. Bangladesh, an online portal. So I don't know how much online portal issue has been identified as illegal trade or illegal killing and capturing of migratory species. I think it's not much recognized. So it's time to very much to recognize these emerging kinds of trade and then work on it. So we have seen, Pakistan smuggled endangered falcon, and I was in Dubai 2 weeks ago, and then when we went to desert adventure, there are several falcon, and people asked to hold them and take a picture. So they are used as a tourism to boost the tourism. And as I said, the countries in the region: Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, India, and then Bangladesh. Bangladesh is suspended by CITES for illegal non-compliance with CITES mechanism, mainly for bird species. So we can imagine the scale of illegal trade of bird species in Bangladesh. So here is again Pakistan and India, where huge number of birds are being. The right hand side picture actually we took in Sri Lanka. All these birds were confiscated or seized from the port, and the problem is the whole person who sees, or the wildlife department people, they don't know about this species. They are all coming from different part of the world, and the disease and the dangerous part, which is not much considered, is their disease, and they don't know how to deal with the species, how to feed them, what is their behavior. All those kinds of issue are now increasingly recognized in our member countries. So what I see is that to address these illegal hunting kinds of issues in in the region. There is a need for cooperation of different agencies. There are a couple of points within this CAF landscape, and we can also give some. We haven't much prioritized the birds issue now, so we can also work on this birds issue, share the intelligence, and then when there is a chance and scope or possibility, then now birds also need to be a part of the wildlife monitoring, and also go through the checking of these cyber crime units, and then protection of key habitat through not only illegal hunting. We studied. We are very. I was also engaged in one of the study conducted in Nepal, which was try to identify how to save this, increase the area 30/30, or how to minimize this fragmentation and issue and make more comfortable to the species. Then one issue was of the flyways, and the migratory birds related issue was on this high tension line and very much infrastructure construction, the height of the transmission line, and several other issues, and the degrading habitat. We have also noticed in the eastern part of Nepal, one of the Ramsar site, where the bird number has now significantly gone down compared to previous. So there are illegal poisoning of those migratory birds, there are habitat destruction, and so we need to promote community-based conservation for this process. And obviously, this is not much recognized by public that whether they can kill bird or not, which species of bird are legal, which is killing of which species of bird is illegal, and they think this is a traditional right, but we haven't done much, and also to aware them, and also to engage them for other income generation activity. Maybe it's not possible to engage in every landscape, so maybe we can focus on some hotspot area where, where we have identified those kind of issue, and also as I said, in a bird crime and enforcement priority now should also be one of those area where we can work together, or there is a need to work, and then find out the build capacity for enforcement, rescue, and rehabilitation in order to prevent an increasing the illegal killing and taking of migratory birds, and the birds in general, because there are several birds which are very much endangered and critical, and now increasingly being used for getting money and generating money for the tourism purposes or for the recreation purposes, without considering their sustainability and their number. And so we are pushing them to the category of endangered list. So I think these are some of the areas where we see from our perspective how these species can be saved from ongoing threat of capturing and killing. So I thank you very much for listening. If there are anything that you are interested to know about Savin, I did not mention much about Savin itself. We are working with, as I said briefly, we are working with CITES in management unit from each country, 8 countries, and they are very much intact, and then for supporting the secretariat, and we also do support, and there are several. We do also conduct, legal enforcement and legal documentation. If one the seizure happened, then how to conduct, how to carry this case strongly up to the court, and then we now starting activities for cyber-based and financial crime-based, beside the traditional capacity building on illegal wildlife trade. And I think we very much now recently started to have some research at the regional level. Maybe we'll have some result very soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Krishna sir, for this wonderful presentation. Probably we can take the questions after the other presentations at the end of the webinar, if that is okay for you.
Yeah, it's okay, fine.
Okay, thank you so much. So our next presentation is by Miss Kali Kabewa. Kali, you are there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hi all, can you hear me?
Yes, we can very well hear
Okay,
you.
then
Let
I'm
me
here.
introduce you first. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
So Miss Kali has been working in wildlife conservation for 9 years with the organization called, we all know that Fauna and Flora. In 2021, Kali graduated from the MPhil in conservation leadership at the University of Cambridge with a thesis focused on online wildlife trade in Central Asia. Since then, Kali has been managing the illegal wildlife trade project in Central Asia. Kali, over to you. Would you be able to presentation? Okay. Share your presentation, or if you want us to share.
Thank you, Ramesh. I'll try to share my presentation because I made a few changes. But if you don't mind, I will stay with my camera off because my laptop is showing me some tricks. So I'm afraid it will just kick me out if I try too many things on my laptop. Just give me a second to share the screen. Can you please give me an it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you please allow me to share?
Kurshad, could you give co-host?
You are co-host. You are co-host. Oh, okay. So please.
Kali is
Okay.
co-host, right? Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Kurshad.
Khurshid, maybe you can just share Kali's presentation.
She's co-host. Yes.
Oh, I think
no,
it's working.
sorry. Now you are. Yes.
Kali
Perfect.
is, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you for introducing me, Ramesh and Kate. My name is Kali, and as Ramesh mentioned, I work at Fauna Flora. This is a conservation organization, one of the oldest one, and we work across 50 countries around the world and in Central Asia, including in Central Asia, we have branch offices in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. And we also work through our partners in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And today I want to talk about one of our programs, which is illegal wildlife trade program with the focus on birds. So our wildlife trade program started in 2014 with the focus on Saiga horn trade in Kazakhstan, together with our long trusting partners ACBK, which is Association for Conservation of Biodiversity of Kazakhstan. And then we followed our program with the project that was focused on Sacred Falcon in 2019 in Kyrgyzstan, where we were trying to understand how local population of Sacred Falcon is impacted by the trade. We also want to understand just of the trade change and how it happens, because before that there were no other projects that were conducted on the illegal trade in birds in Kyrgyzstan. So we're just trying to understand the scale and who is involved in this. And since then, we also had another project which was focused on steppe tortoise. And this project was more regional one. This is where we understood like there is interest and there is a will to work on the wildlife trade, and most of all, there is a need. So since 2021, we had a very big two complementary projects. One was funded by US government and another by the UK government to tackle wildlife trade challenges in Central Asia. And these two projects were focused mostly on supporting the capacity of law enforcement agencies, but also understanding the scale and the situation around the trade in the region. We were trying to understand what's happening with the legal trade, what's happening with the illegal trade, what's the situation with the online trade, how it's being, what species are being used, traded, what routes are being used, what transportations are used. We also want to understand how legislation is working and how is it enforced. And of course, we want to understand also what challenges that we can address together with the governmental officials and national partners. So we worked and we're still working in 4 countries, which is Kyrgyzstan, where our project was implemented by our branch office. Yes, sorry. Excuse me. Okay, can I continue? In Tajikistan, it's the same. We have a branch office and our FFI Tajikistan implemented our project there. In Uzbekistan, these were our partners, Institute of Zoology and NGO Ekamaktab. In Kazakhstan, it's ECPK. And also we worked and collaborated with Traffic, who did and collected all the information from our partners into one report. And this report and our previous experience and work on Sacred Falcon actually informed this presentation, and all the data that I will be using will be from this reports. The report of assessment of wildlife trade is actually available to public, and you can find it on the Traffic's website if you want to go through and read about other species as well. And also, as I mentioned, we had this training for law enforcement officers. We trained them on how to identify species, also to understand what CITES permits are required, what other requirements of CITES exist, what they should be checking at the checkpoints. And also we supported the training of sniffer dogs. So all these training impacted in seizures that happened in the last 2 years, and some of the seizures were reported back to us by our partners, which I also use for this presentation to go through like what species are being traded and how. So regarding the species, I divided them into two columns, which is legal trade and illegal trade. And as you can see in the legal trade, there is not that many species. It's only Asian houbara, sacred falcon, and African gray parrot. I'm not really sure about the reason why there are not that many species are being traded. Maybe it's actually being less traded than illegally, or maybe some countries are not very diligent with just reporting back to CITES. So if we go through this list just a little bit, so Asian houbara is one of, or McQueen's bustard is in an interesting case because I think from 2012 to 2022, Kazakhstan imported more than 19,000 commodities, and all commodities, this is the total number of all specimens that were imported to Kazakhstan, and 91% of which were Asian houbara. And this was from the United Arab Emirates. And also Kazakhstan exported Asian houbara, I think much less numbers, maybe a little bit more than 2,000. And again, 90% of that number was Asian houbara. Regarding the sacred falcon, it was also linked to the legal trade of sacred falcon was linked to Kazakhstan. Here, so the country that actually imported sacred falcon reported back to CITES saying that the sacred falcons were captive bred, 56 of them, and received or exported from Kazakhstan. At the same time, Kazakhstan never reported sacred falcons being exported from their country. However, they had at that time, they had 150 captive bred quota for exporting sacred falcons. And African gray parrot was mentioned in the report from Tajikistan, although Tajikistan joined CITES much later than other countries in Central Asia. But still, they submitted their, I think, one report, and in that report there were not that many species. And one of the species that was mentioned was African gray parrot from South Africa. Regarding illegal trade, so the same as well as falcons, and I tried to divide them here to groups like raptors, falcons, eagle, harriers, vultures, also some pheasants, laughing thrush, parrots, goldfinch, orioles. So among these raptors, golden eagle is one of the species that I don't, in my experience, I never saw them being sold abroad. Usually they're sold inside the country, so it's more like internal trade. Regarding marsh harrier, vulture, and all other species that are going down, including pheasants, laughing thrush, these are all seizures that were made in Uzbekistan for the last 2 years after our training. and they were identified by the experts from Institute of Zoology. So I trust their judgment, and I trust that they could identify the species correctly. So these all species are coming from the seizure report. So if we look at the countries, I divided them also to source countries, transit countries, and consumer countries. As we all know, these might be very changing on the situation, on the species, but generally, if we talk about birds, all 4 countries are usually source countries for one or another species. And as I mentioned, South Africa is there for the parrots, the United Arab Emirates, but I think here we could also say other Gulf countries, Vietnam, Chechnya, Russia, and transit countries. Here, I listed only 2 countries because these exact countries were mentioned as the countries, as transit countries. So Kyrgyzstan, usually it's for the falcons when they're coming from Kazakhstan to Kyrgyzstan, and then they're planning to take it somewhere abroad. And Argentina. Argentina is a very odd one because this was also linked to Asian Hubara. In one of these cases, from the Emirates, they sent Asian Hubara to Argentina for some reason. I'm not really sure if it's just the error in the system, or maybe it was this mechanism for laundering. I'm not really sure what's this case, but I believe it just was the error in the report, because logistically it doesn't make sense to import Asian Hubara from Emirates to Argentina and from Argentina to Kazakhstan. Also, we have consumer countries. Again, all these countries can be also consumer countries, but those that we know from our reports are Kazakhstan for Asian Hubara, Tajikistan for African grey parrot, Uzbekistan for many songbirds and other species, and also the United Arab Emirates, but again, this might be other Gulf countries as well. So if we look at the why these birds are often traded, raptors, as you, I think all of you know, these are mostly for the falconry, because Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan have their nomadic culture, nomadic history, and there is a falconry that unites also the Gulf countries and other countries that have nomad culture. But with time, it also became a status symbol. Now we know that many birds are being sold for a very high price, which is also a symbol of wealth. And also there are some cases when they were sold for the captive breeding to have, so they would get the wild ones to have the better breeding. Songbirds, again, it's a very historical practice, especially in the sedentary cultures like in Uzbekistan, and I also heard in Tajikistan, but I haven't met like hard evidence that it's happening in Tajikistan, that they keep songbirds in their yards, in their houses. And now also we can see that Tashkent is quite open, and its airport has direct connections with other countries like Vietnam, China, South Korea, where the trade is also often happening. And Asian Hubara, I put it separately because Asian Hubara was mentioned in the CITES report, and there the purpose was stated by the exporters as reintroduction and introduction, and it was 90% of all the imports to Kazakhstan. Also, they mentioned other reasons like breeding in captivity, circus, or exhibitions, or for scientific purposes. So how exactly they're being transferred? Usually in cages, in boxes, sometimes in bags, in fruit crates, and to limit their movement and reduce the noise, they also often are wrapped in tape or piece of cloth. Sometimes they try to smuggle them under false documents. And recently I heard from an employer of the ministry in the south. He told me that they had cases when some people were smuggling in eggs of wild birds among the chicken eggs in the egg cartons. So it is very difficult to actually find this kind of eggs, or to even identify, because like any officer wouldn't spend more than 5 minutes to check the bags or anything. So it would be impossible to find an egg of wild bird among the other eggs. And transportation, unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers for bird trade because all the numbers we had was for the trade in general. And in there we had vehicles. We have the statistic that the vehicles are used more than airplanes or railroads. I think for the birds, it depends on the distance, like because usually birds are transported alive, so you don't want them to be dead while you're transporting. So you would prefer airplanes for the long distances and vehicles for the shorter distances for the sake of the security or for the sake of successful smuggling. Railroads, I've never heard that they were used for the bird trade, but maybe it's just that we don't have this information. So once they're smuggled in the country, where they're going, of course, they're going to the bird markets, zoo shops. They're openly sold usually there. And I think it just tells us how weak the enforcement of legislation is. Because of the lack of capacity, very limited capacity of ministry employees who can go and do the raids and patrols to check if the bird has documents, if the bird is captive bred and not wild source. So it's very difficult to regularly and systematically to check these markets. Online advertisement platforms, which was the focus of my thesis, is also very convenient for the perpetrators because there it's very easy to hide your identity. So I think it's something also that's widely used for the trade of all animals and plants, not only birds. Social media, some people, I'm not really sure if they don't realize that it's illegal, or maybe they realize and they know that there won't be any punishment coming. So they openly advertise the pet birds they have or the birds they want to sell online, sometimes even with videos with their open face. So this is something that we also see in our work. And from one falconer, I heard that there are also private chat groups on WhatsApp and Telegram. And often you cannot have an access just if you want to enter this group. You need to be recommended by someone. And in these chat groups, they usually sell leftover birds. And by leftover, he meant the birds that couldn't be sold abroad for higher price. So they're left to sell for the locals. And if the bird is seized on the border, then usually they're transferred to zoos like Tashkent Zoo, Fergana Zoo, or rehabilitation centers in case of Pakistan, for instance. And they often kept also during the investigation as evidence, which something that we wanted to work in the future to reduce the impact, the effect of it on the animals, because most of them are kept for too long and they're stressed and then they get sick or die. As I mentioned already, some challenges, like there's still limited knowledge and skills in species identification. Most of the law enforcement officers, they don't know what the CITES is. They don't even know what animals, sometimes they don't even know that animals and plants require some papers to be with them to trade through the borders. Also, there are no proper protocols for aftercare and keeping in. So whenever the Tashkent Zoo or some rehabilitation centers receive these animals, birds, they don't often get financial support. Usually they take this responsibility for themselves and they take care of the birds. So it creates lots of problems like lack of proper conditions, lack of proper care, lack of proper experts like vets who could take care of the birds. So then birds actually die in these rehabilitation centers and not released to the wild. And of course, corruption. This is something that we cannot avoid for many years. It still exists. And what we do in our work to address illegal trade. So, as I mentioned, we train law enforcement officers on CITES and national legislation. We teach them what they should require the border from those who trade any wildlife. We also develop species identification as just a tool to help them to go through the first steps. Also, we have tools such as online hub where they can get an access to any information about wildlife trade, any contacts. Also, we're now working with the Ministry of Natural Resources in Kyrgyzstan to develop, and we're at the final stages now to develop wildlife trade database where we can collate and later analyze all the data that's there to understand how better we can address these issues. And as far as I know, Ministry in Kyrgyzstan, at least, they have passports, microchips, and rings for the owners of for the birds of falconers, for instance. And they also developed, I think a couple years ago, they developed protocols for keeping hunting birds, but I'm not really sure for how it's being enforced for now. So there's more work to expect. In December, we're starting a new project that's called Raptors in Central Asia. That will be implemented by us, Fauna Flora, Nature Foundation, and Raptors MOU, where we will try to understand the impact of trade and local use to sacred falcons, peregrine falcon, and golden eagle. Also, Traffic will be presenting soon, I think during the CITES in Samarkand, their report on exotic pets. We already had a look at that report, and there are some interesting numbers. So I'm sure that they will be also giving an access on their website, so it will be interesting to check out. And recently I heard from my former colleague that Snow Leopard Foundation, they also started researching the newspapers from the 19s for the advertisements that features raptors to understand how these difficult socioeconomical times impacted the trade in Kyrgyzstan. I hopefully my connection was stable enough. That's it from my side. And I think we'll answer the questions at the end of all presentations, right?
Yes, Kali. At the end of the other two presentations, we'll take the questions. Thank you so much for presenting, Kali. So let's move on to our next speaker, Mr. Ayub Ali, the CEO of organization Rewild. Mr. Ayub is a senior conservation practitioner with 20 years of experience in the field of wildlife conservation, management, and environmental monitoring, engaged mostly through WCS, that is Wildlife Conservation Society, and also through UNEP and ADB, Asian Development Bank in Afghanistan, for protected area management, planning, wildlife monitoring, and species conservation initiatives. Ayub was the Director of Operations and Acting Country Director for WCS Afghanistan between 2022 August 2025. Most recently, he played the key role in establishment of a national conservation organization in Afghanistan called Organization Rewild, and is currently the CEO of this new organization. Mr. Ayub, over to you.
Thank you, Ramesh, and hello, everyone. Thank you, Conservation Network colleagues, for providing this opportunity and enabling us to talk with the valuable group of colleagues. I'll be giving you a brief update about the status of hunting, trapping, and trade of mainly demoiselle crane, but also some other waterbird species, primarily targeted in an area called Shamali Plain at the north of Kabul city, like 75 kilometers north, in a very important area, northern part of Kabul sub-river basin. This presentation and information through that will not claim to give you the full picture of the status of the bird hunting and trade throughout Afghanistan, but I believe this could serve as a good indicator for giving a picture illustrating the status in through assessing the situation in one of the key important areas traditionally being important for bird hunting and trade and providing bird species for trade into the local markets. Particularly this northern part of Kabul sub-river basin is a fertile, highly valuable agricultural zone, which couple of rivers joins together called Lower Panjshir sub-basin. Colleagues, if you move to the next slide. In this area, there is plenty of water available. So in addition to agricultural fields, there are plenty of open spaces and fields irrigated and flooded by the water coming through this 4 main rivers joining together in this particular spot, and being moved throughout the plain, also through a very well extended network of irrigation canals. And this area has been traditionally a hotspot for bird hunting, but also, many people traditionally been, sorry, you're having another page? Oh, okay. As a summary brief of the status of the area in this Lower Panjshir sub-river basin, the water, plenty of water are coming from Panjshir River, but also Gorband and Solang River and Shatul, 4 rivers bringing water in their particular spot, and it provides plenty of water for irrigation, and always, even during the dry season, there are extra water flooding the area, which people are using for artificial ponds, for trapping birds. This area particularly, at the national level, has been well known for hunting and bringing high pressure on hunting water birds, mostly during migration season. Kabul city in the south and a few other major cities around the area serves as a hub, main markets for selling birds hunted in this area. But also there are several bird markets in the districts, 3 or 4 districts in this region, that also there have been birds sold. For the purpose of this study, we have been looking to those key bird hunting areas and the techniques and the ways that they do bird hunting, but also we have been looking into the local bird markets in the area and in the bird market in Kabul city to have an understanding of the status of hunting and also the trade of these species locally. In this area particularly, throughout Afghanistan, the local people are famous that hunting birds is their biggest hobby. And most of the time that they're not busy with agricultural activities, they've been doing bird hunting in different ways. So it's very popular in the area for the most people to be doing bird hunting, which traditionally believed, and some previous assessments believed, that since the bird capture, live capture of the birds, the techniques have been lacking in the area. The old assessments suggested that usually these people are able to shoot using shotguns and kill the birds. But recently, we can observe that maybe the situation is changed, and now people are gained the capacity and the knowledge to spend more time on live capture of the birds and selling them. Next slide, please. Colleagues, if you move to the next slide. Some of the highlights of key observation in the area. In a bird market in Kabul city, from 15 bird shops, 2 of them were having totally 11 live demoiselle crane for sale. And in local markets in Bagram, which is Bagram district, which is close in the area of bird capture, we saw in the roadside, we saw several shops with different number of dead birds for sale. But particularly and most importantly, we met a main hunter, probably with the skill that he had, about 190 live demoiselle crane captured and kept in a backyard, which he claimed that all of those 190 was captured in the night before, which there was a rain and there was probably a good lucky day for him to be able to capture about 190 live demoiselle cranes. Unfortunately for the birds. From the trapping sites also in the area that we visited, at least 13 of them, these trapping sites are the lands artificially flooded with water, and all around of the fields have been nets installed, standing around them for capture of the birds. And additionally, they put decors and plastic and wooden lures of the birds, and also they simulate and play record of the crane calls, which there's a movie of that in later on I'll play for you, that shows how the techniques and the way that they use for live capture. And what we hear from the people, they would be mostly trying to capture cranes alive, but there would be some birds that are damaged and injured during the capture. Those they will serve for meat in local markets, but mostly they would try to keep and capture alive the birds. In addition to demoiselle cranes, which are seems to be the primary focus of hunters in the area, there are other species also. Either they're captured in fewer number due to fewer numbers originally flying to the area and stopping in the area, but also maybe lesser interest to capture them. Yet it's not clear the reason, but there are other species also captured as a side effect of their main targets or different reasons. One key observation that we compared with the previous assessment, mainly before the changes in the country in 2021, as the big drop in the price of the birds in the local markets. Some assessments before 2021 suggested that one pair of demoiselle crane has been sold up to $2,500 in Kabul or other major cities. But particularly in Kabul, now the price has been dropped to about $100 from $2,500, which we believe there are different reasons behind that, but still it means that there is a market for that. And the fewer, maybe wealthier families to buy them and keep them as pets in their big yards. And a pair of live demoiselle crane has been sold up to $70 in the capture area, and one dead demoiselle crane and other species of crane has been sold about $7 in the area. And generally, there has been a big drop in the local market prices. Next slide, please. Some other just a random observation through this assessment or case studies, that the newly captured birds, demoiselle cranes that has been kept in a backyard, they are stitching the eyes of the animal right after the capture, and for a few days and even up to weeks before selling them, they keep them blinded because they believe it keeps them calm and it eases the process for domestication of the animal. But also we observed there are some other animals, captured in the nets randomly and by accident and just left there to die, and nobody care about them. But there are other species, maybe bigger in size, that could be sold for meat. They collect them and they sell them in the local markets. There's a movie here, if you please play it. it shows just an example of how they, demonstrate recorded call of the crane to attract birds.
نور خورشید کار میکنه و صدای پرنده ها را تقلید میکنه برای جذب پرنده های عبوری از این ساحه که اینجا نشست کنه و در این جالا بند شود.
Yeah, the system works with solar. It's entirely, it seems self-sufficient for energy, and it plays day and night for attracting birds. And all around the flooded fields have been, vertical nets installed to that if the birds, come with an angle to land in the area, they will be hitting the net and captured. But also decor and rule, plastic cranes have been set in the pond to attract birds. In the distance, you can see the lures.
جال نصب شده و مخفیگاه های شکارچی ها و محل شکاری.
Thank you. Maybe the movie was not due to internet connection, was playing smoothly anyway. It was just trying to show and give a picture of how people are has been changed, particularly if looking into the previous assessments claiming that the capacity and techniques for live capture was lacking in Afghanistan, and particularly the claim is that most of the live birds have been smuggled from Pakistan to Afghanistan. Now it shows the other way, that there have been birds captured alive in big numbers and sold locally here. But the international markets yet to be, and linkages need an assessment to be explored. But for this extent, we are only able to look into the connection with the local markets in Kabul and in the local markets in near to the capture area. Some of the key conclusion of this assessment is that hunting birds, both for killing and live capture in this area, plays a major role on putting pressure on populations flying through Central Asia Flyway through this area and having a stop in this area. This is a key area for stopover for the migration, mainly spring migration from south to north. There are plenty of previous assessments claiming that hunting pressure, particularly in this area, but also along the migration flyway toward Pakistan, several other spots together, has been one of the key reasons responsible for the original decline, and eventually extinction of the Central Asian population of the Siberian crane in early days. And now, unfortunately, we don't have Siberian cranes anymore in this area, and it's been, as you know, extinct. And this situation that I'm presenting here, the previous assessment also claims that exactly it's one of those main responsible factors for those decline in the population and eventually extinction of the Siberian crane. But also, we believe that the current situation brings a huge pressure on the muzzle crane populations in the flyway toward the north in the spring. And this is something that need to be and deserve further assessment, but not only assessment and monitoring the situation, but further actions that we recommend that need to be considered. Next slide, please. Colleagues, if you move to the next slide. Some of the recommendation for the next step, we believe an extensive community-based awareness and education program in this area would be needed. And for this, we are already in communication with the de facto government authorities. We are presenting the key finding of this assessment, that their engagement and assistance on a community-based awareness program in the area that hopefully to some extent will contribute to decrease the pressure. But also, we believe continuation on the monitoring of the status in the area constantly on this spring flyway toward the north, but also in the fall season, a monitoring program will be needed. But also we recommend that in addition to this particular area, if we are able, and not only us, but other players in the country should focus on including other bird important areas across the country into the assessment to have a better picture of the at the country level. And we believe generally closely working with the local government and central government in this process is important. So we are putting some demands, some efforts on this. And we recommend also that other players also could contribute if possible to engage all effective players in the area to mitigate the situation, which seems to be harsh and devastating toward the migrating populations moving through this area. Thank you for your attention, and we'll be happy to respond to questions if there are any. Thank you, colleagues.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ayub. It was it's really worrying by seeing the cranes' eyes are being stitched before selling. Thank you so much. We will take the questions after Jamshed's presentation. So I welcome the next presentation from Mr. Mohammad Jamshed Iqbal. He's the Senior Manager of Research and Conservation at the WWF Pakistan. Mr. Jamshed is a conservation biologist with over 25 years of national and international experience in wildlife research, conservation, and natural resource management. He holds degrees in environment biology, conservation biology with focus on ornithology. Jamshed contributed to groundbreaking research that identified diclofenac as the cause of vulture declines in Pakistan, findings that were published in journal Nature. He joined WWF Pakistan in 2008, where he was leading a major initiative on species like Great Indian Bustard and Asian Cobra. I'm giving the floor to Jamshed. Over to you, Jamshed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh ji. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible very well.
Good day, everyone. Before talking, I will be talking about the illegal killing and trade of birds in Pakistan. So just before talking about the topic, I will just share a couple of slides about the WWF Pakistan and the biodiversity of Pakistan. So WWF was established in 1970 in Pakistan, and currently WWF is the largest conservation organization in Pakistan. So currently we are implementing 50 projects and have more than 40 offices all across the country. We have more than 1,000 regular employees, and our annual estimated budget is more than $15 million US. So we are working in forests, we are working in oceans, freshwater, climate and energy, biodiversity, food and practice. So from the map, you can see that WWF Pakistan is working all across the country from north to south in all the different practices and in freshwater, wildlife, food, climate, oceans, and sustainable development. So regarding the physical diversity of Pakistan, so Pakistan lies in between 0 to 8,611 meters within about 1,500 kilometer length, and this is the greatest change in elevation with any state of the world. So we have 3 mountain ranges: Karakoram, Himalaya, and Hindu Kush. We have riverine areas, we have desert and semi-desert areas, we have agriculture lands, and we have more than 1,000 kilometer coastal belt. Regarding the zoogeography, so Pakistan lies between Palearctic and Oriental zoogeographic region, and among the global 200 significant ecoregions. So there are 5 ecoregions in Pakistan. From you can see from north to south. So in north, the Tibetan Plateau, and then Western Himalayan ecoregion, and then Indus Delta, and then Arabian Sea and Run of Kutch. Regarding the protected areas in Pakistan, so we have a diverse range of protected areas. We have more than 433 protected areas in Pakistan. That includes national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, game reserve, community game reserve, private game reserve, community controlled and managed hunting areas, then conservancies, sites of special scientific interest, then refuge, wildlife reserves, and biodiversity reserves, and marine protected areas. We have 55 important bird areas in Pakistan. Regarding the species richness in the country, so Pakistan hosts more than 700 bird species, of which 81 are threatened and near threatened. So 196 mammal species, of which 6 are endemic and 25 are threatened and near threatened. 214 reptiles, of which 38 are endemic and 58 are threatened and near threatened. And similarly, 24 amphibians, of which 1 is endemic and 22 are threatened and near threatened. And then 198 freshwater species, of which 29 are endemic and 7 are threatened and near threatened. Similarly, more than 6,000 insect species and more than 5,700 plant species, of which more than 400 are endemic, are reported in Pakistan. We WWF Pakistan, we have some priority species for which we are working through our different conservation projects. We are working on dolphins, we are working on leopards, snow leopards, common leopards, bears, pangolins, gharial, vultures, busters, parakeets, pheasants, cranes, falcons, freshwater and marine turtles, and of course migratory birds. So here are a few pictures of our priority species. Threatened and near threatened avifauna of Pakistan. So Pakistan's avifauna is about 70% migratory, including winter visitors, summer visitors, and passage migrants. So again, it includes 81 threatened and near threatened species, with 6 listed as critically endangered, including the migratory sociable lapwing. So sociable lapwing is widely distributed in Pakistan. The maximum single count of sociable lapwing was 365 individuals. However, it seems reasonable to estimate that up to 500 birds could have been wintered in Sindh and Balochistan that were observed during 2016-17 surveys. From these maps, you can see the movement of satellite tagged sociable lapwing in the Punjab province of Pakistan. These sightings were of the last year. This year in February 2025, and these birds used to stay a couple of months in this area. Similarly, in another province in the southern Sindh province of Pakistan, so we every year the tagged birds visit this area along with the huge flocks of the birds. Threats to biodiversity in Pakistan includes habitat degradation, fragmentation, poaching, illegal hunting, illegal wildlife trade, over-exploitation of the resources, pollution, invasive species, unsustainable agriculture practices, climate change. In this picture, you can see that even the critically endangered great Indian bustard are also killed illegally in the Cholistan desert of Pakistan. Illegal killing and trade of birds in Pakistan remain the major threat to Pakistan's birds. So rampant poaching and trade of migratory and resident birds are reported all across the country. This trade is both in markets and online. Illegal wildlife trade leads to excessive exploitation of the species, putting them at a serious risk of extinction. And recently, during midwinter waterfowl census surveys, we have observed a significant decline in migratory species between 23 and 2025. The drivers of the illegal wildlife trade in Pakistan, it includes high commercial value of certain species, for example, falcons, songbird, migratory birds. The falcons are captured and trapped by the local people, especially in the tribal areas and also along the flyway, and are then sold in the markets with high prices. So subsistence hunting for food in rural and remote communities are also reported. Cultural and traditional practices, including falconry, recreational shooting, and crane trapping, especially in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan provinces of the Pakistan, are reported. So demand for pets, parakeets, mynas, finches, and songbirds captured for the cage bird trade in the local markets. Cross-border trafficking networks to supply luxury markets across the border, especially for falcons in the Gulf states, and perceived livelihood opportunities for local trappers, middlemen, and hunters. Weak enforcement and governance gaps are there, especially in the remote areas. So lack of awareness among the communities regarding legal protection and ecological impacts and ecological importance of the species. Insufficient penalties that fail to deter offenders because there are gaps and loopholes in local legislations, and the penalties for most of the wildlife crime is very low, due to which the people are involved in such illegal activities. So loss of alternative income resources, making communities dependent on wildlife collection. Demand for traditional medicine and the use of body parts in local beliefs. Some parts of the birds are used, for example, the fat of the pelicans are used in some local medicines, and the people have their belief on such kind of activities. Sport and trophy hunting attitude, particularly for large water birds, game birds, and raptors. Human-wildlife conflict causing more human bird interactions and opportunistic killing, especially for bar-headed goose in some areas of the country where the people use and there are reports that the people poison these birds because they believe that they harm their crops. So unregulated online marketplaces enabling easy sale and transport of the wildlife due to these online platforms. So the people, they used to sell these birds in different parts of the country. Types of bird commonly affected, so water birds, ducks, teals, common pochard, pelicans, flamingos, cranes, coots, heron, egrets. So all kind of migratory birds are killed and trapped. Raptors and owls, falcons, eagles, hawks and owls captured for falconry are local beliefs. Parakeets, so all the 4 species of parakeets, including Alexandrine, rose-ringed, plum-headed, and slaty-headed parakeets, are trapped and used for pet purposes. Passerine and cage birds, finches, buntings, munias, warblers, and flycatchers, larks, pipers, and mynas. So sometimes they are trapped and are sold in the local markets. Game birds, black and gray francolins, quails, sand grouse, and busters for meat and sport. In some cases, crows, ravens, magpies are killed for pest because the people, they consider them as a pest, and they poison them and they kill. So pheasants, they are also like trapped and killed, and the people, they keep them as a trophy in their houses. So doves and pigeons, these birds are also killed for food and pet purposes. The efforts to combat wildlife crime in Pakistan. So the existing law enforcement in Pakistan at both federal and provincial legislation. So we have the Pakistan Trade Control of Wild Fauna and Flora Act 2012, which deals all such kind of issues, and also like the import and export permits for the CITES species. Then we have Federal Islamabad Nature Conservation and Wildlife Management Act. Then we have like wildlife acts in all provinces in Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Sindh, Balochistan, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and the Gilgit-Baltistan area. So all these provinces have their own acts, and the wildlife species are protected in different schedules and in different categories under these provincial wildlife acts, because after 2018 the wildlife is a provincial subject in Pakistan, and mostly the provinces have the authority to implement all the laws and legislation for the conservation of the wildlife species in Pakistan. Then we have the existing law enforcement in Pakistan, that is the management and monitoring authorities. Pakistan is signatory to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, and under this CITES convention, we have established the CITES Management Authority under the Federal Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination. So this is the the most decision-making body, and the federal minister chairs this authority, and all the representative of the provinces and NGOs like WWF and IUC in Pakistan are member of this CITES Management Authority. And then we have the scientific authority established in each province, and the provincial stakeholders are the members of the scientific authority. So the scientific authority and then the CITES Management Authority, so they decide about all the CITES permits and to regulate the import, export of such animals, and also to make any other decision regarding the species for the conservation and other issues. So, and then we have law enforcement and border agencies. We have federal and provincial wildlife departments. We have Federal Investigation Authority. We have Pakistan Customs, Pakistan Rangers, Frontier Corps, and then police. So all these law enforcement agencies, they also contribute for the conservation and also to combat the wildlife trafficking issues in Pakistan. Then the conservation projects, these conservation projects are implemented by the government and also the NGOs. So I will just give the example of a project that we are currently WWF Pakistan is implementing, because since its establishment, WWF Pakistan has worked with stakeholders to combat illegal wildlife trade through research, policy, advocacy, capacity building, and community engagement. Currently, we are implementing a 2-year project titled Combating Wildlife Trafficking in Pakistan, and this project is funded by the US Department of State, INL. Under this project, we are improving the awareness and capacity of the rangers and other wildlife officials of the wildlife departments to effectively intercept, investigate, and combat wildlife trafficking in Pakistan. We are strengthening the awareness, skills, and capacity of the judiciary to effectively prioritize wildlife crime and ensure the conviction of those involved in illegal poaching and trafficking. Because in Pakistan, there was a discussion within the wildlife department and other stakeholders that when these cases are forwarded by the law enforcement agencies to the courts and the judges, they are not well aware and sensitized about the importance of the wildlife, and they just impose very minor penalties. So that's why under this project we are sensitizing the judiciary about the importance of the wildlife species. We are also enhancing interprovincial and interagency coordination coordination among frontline law enforcement agencies and establishing a national wildlife crime prevention network. So this network is established under the Federal Ministry of the Climate Change, and all the provinces are represented in this network. And the objective of this network is to gather the data of the seizure and other issues related to wildlife crime in Pakistan, and also to have a close coordination with the provinces to share intelligence-based information. Then we are identifying gaps in wildlife laws and enforcement procedures and providing recommendations to address them. We are developing tailored training curriculum for wildlife departments. We are providing trainings to the rangers and wildlife officials on key aspects of wildlife crime prevention, including crime scene investigation, wildlife handling, and ranger health and safety. So we are also developing and implementing a site-specific zero poaching plan for protected areas. We are also providing trainings and supporting implementation on SMART in protected areas. We are also increasing awareness among wildlife departments, local communities, and journalists and academia about the seriousness of wildlife crime in Pakistan. We are developing knowledge products to raise awareness about the wildlife crime intended for use in judicial trainings and also for wildlife officials. So we are also enhancing judicial ability to effectively prosecute wildlife crime by providing successful case studies, informational material, and awareness sessions through federal and provincial judicial academies. We are also developing a comprehensive national illegal wildlife trade prevention strategy to improve and sustain collaborative efforts to combat illegal wildlife trade in Pakistan. So these are the conservation efforts that we are working in collaboration with the governments, with the communities and the other stakeholders in Pakistan. Thank you very much. This is all about the illegal wildlife trade and our conservation measures in Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, I would just like to express a very warm thank you to all of our colleagues who've presented so far. This is obviously a very tragic and sad topic, but once again, very glad that we had the opportunity to explore this. And I would like to really say congratulations to you all on the work that you have been doing. And it would be very interesting to learn how we as the Central Asian Conservation Network and with our organisation members and expert members can support the work that you are doing. Just a very brief message also to share here is that we, the CACN, are actually in conversation with the International Crane Foundation at the moment, and this is discussing the possibility of a small research project on the illegal trade of cranes on social media in the 5 Central Asian countries, looking at this trade also in local languages. So we will be reaching out to you and particularly also to Kali, of course. Thank you. So I will be opening up the floor for questions in just a moment. So please feel welcome to type your questions into the chat or simply raise your hand and unmute yourself. And once again, I welcome all participants, but in particular, I would like to make a special call out to Dr. Imad Cherkawi. Dr. Imad is the coordinator of the Southwest Asia Illegal Taking of Birds Intergovernmental Task Force. And this is a task force under the CMS, so the Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. And I would also like to welcome another participant. This is Dr. Susan Tsang. Susan is the coordinator of the Asia Pacific Illegal Taking of Migratory Birds Intergovernmental Task Force, which is also under the CMS. So I wanted to take the opportunity to welcome Dr. Imad and Dr. Susan, and I would like to start by giving you the floor actually to provide any comments and experience and reflections. Thank you, Dr. Imad. I see you've turned your video on. Please go ahead. I think you might be still muted.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you for your invitation, and I'm pleased to be
to be here participating to this wonderful meeting, also to listening to all the presentation. Yes, I knew I could really meet some of my friends in this panel, so I'm really excited for that. So yeah, so as you said, I'm working now as the Southwest Asia illegal taking of migratory birds coordinator of the task force, so under the CMS convention. And so basically it was at the COP 14 of CMS that the parties agreed to the amendment of the resolution 11.16, the launching of the Southwest Asia illegal taking of migratory bird intergovernmental task force. And basically this task force this initiative invite parties and non-parties to investigate the current level of illegal taking of migratory birds in this region, and to actively contribute to the establishment and the operation of the Southwest Asia of illegal taking of migratory birds, and also to set up the structures required, for example, through the elaboration of national action plans against the illegal taking of migratory birds, to ensure active collaboration between stakeholders to address the threats, and also to support the establishment of operation and coordination of the Southwest Asia illegal taking of migratory birds intergovernmental task force. So the action plan vision, goals, and objective was already adopted and agreed by all the ranch states during a meeting that was held last year in Riyadh, this year, sorry, in Riyadh, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And now I have been involved now, I think, since 3 months. So very recently, we are now trying to really cope with the action plan recommendation, especially with regard to the development of guideline for carrying monitoring of illegal taking of birds, for the definition of the baseline, but also to develop or to start discussion about developing the regional guidelines for the development and implementation of national ITB action plan and relevant policy documents. Also, we are going to launch or develop the guidelines for undertaking national socio-economic assessment to understand the motivation behind the illegal taking of migratory bird in the Southwest Asia region. So the countries that are involved in this initiative are Bahrain, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. So now that we have already set we have already the task force members and representative already identified by each of the country. We have now preparing. We are going to prepare the first meeting, which will be online in December, to really try to tackle most of those important actions for the action plans, which are the development of guidelines for carrying the monitoring of ITB for the definition of the baseline, and also to develop the regional guideline for the development and implementation of ITB action plans in each of the country. So this is basically where we are with this initiative of Southwest Asia task force. Now, if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Imad, and really good luck. Good luck with the work ahead.
Thank you.
So Susan, if you're with us,
Yep.
I know I'm putting you on the spot a little, but you're welcome.
No worries, I'm good. So hi, everybody. I am Susan Sang. I am the coordinator for the ITTA, which is, as Catherine mentioned, the Asia Pacific Task Force. I had the great fortune of meeting her last week while we were at the meeting of parties in Cebu for the East Asian Australasian Flyway Partnership. And while I have not worked for the ITT for very long, this actual task force has not existed for a long time. We work extremely closely with the AFP, which has a longer history of partnership in the region and also with many other countries who are a part of it. You do not need to be a signatory of the CMS to participate in any of our task force work, and I encourage everybody to go to our website, cms.int, go under task forces, and you can find more information on what we're doing for ITTA, for our much more established task force in the Mediterranean, and also for the Southwest Asia one. We have a lot of colleagues who are working together in Southeast Asia, in South Asia, who coordinate very closely with one another, given the regional overlap and geographic overlap. And I encourage folks to engage with us if they have any interest in CMS. In the last couple of years while we've existed, we've really helped with hosting capacity building, information sharing, workshops online, webinars, and I see a lot of very similar issues in what colleagues have presented today. And we'd be very happy to cross-advertise and help make sure that everybody is aware so that, if you have an interest in working on some of these species that do cross boundaries, we can help make some of those connections. Because I do think that that's very important, especially given that there are transit source and consumer countries that are crossing over, in the CAF and also in the EAF. So I, for one, welcome any sort of questions to us or partnerships with us that people are curious in. And I do think that we could be much better at communicating some of our resources across these geographic regions, given that, customs officers are not going to be able to identify things unless, we share our ID guides and things like that in different languages, right? So please, if there's something that comes up a lot in your region that maybe you want to reach out to us and say, hey, we need more connectivity with like this country in Asia. Who can we talk to be a good partner locally? Or is there a governmental office that is a good partner locally? Then let us know. We're here as a resource and as a platform for people to network with one another. And if there are topics like webinars that you would like us to host so you can engage more with your colleagues in Asia, please let me know.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderfully generous offer, and I hope that we can discuss more. And Susan, really, it was a pleasure to meet you last week also in Cebu. Can I ask if there are any questions? I can see several comments in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for your warm comments, congratulating all the speakers for these interesting presentations. Please don't be shy. If you have a question, put up your hand, unmute yourself, or write a question in the chat. And while, as there are no questions from the audience, just let me ask an initial question. And this is directed to Dr. Krishna, but I think it's probably also relevant for all of the speakers and our CMS task force coordinators as well. I was quite interested in learning more if you have been noticing any trends in illegal trade over the past years or decades, and if there have been any events in this global landscape of illegal killing and trade that we're actually noticing, and what those might be.
So it's specific to birds, or?
Of course, our focus is birds, but I think everything is quite interlinked for illegal killing and trade.
Yeah, that's true. But I would say the legal trade and illegal trade also are very much related. There is a system of CITES which permit you making the legal trade, and we make analysis of almost 1975 to 2023. 20 how many years? Almost 40 years. Yeah, legal trade permitted through CITES. But we did not much have analyzed specifically to birds, but we can say the trade pattern has been significantly changed over the time. Initially, India imported tusk from Africa, and carving and other things were exported. But if you see now, then the species like plant, orchids and other medicinal plants are now exported from South Asia. And slowly, marine species have begun to export to different countries. And there are very much combination of. We have seen that in CITES. For example, I do remember a few examples, like let's say a great monkey. Great monkey is not found in South Asia, but you can see from one of our member countries has exported in terms of millions specimens. So that we don't know what does that specimens means. It's in terms of million exported from that country to Europe and Middle East, which is not native means. And the country hasn't imported any of those. The CITES database doesn't show import. So this and the trend where there is market, illegal market, and then move is shown in the legal market. Having the same species import and export, and the fraud permit and several things which may be equally relevant to birds. The common, I was in meeting just 2 days ago in India, and then also there was a presentation from IFA, International Fund for Animal Welfare. And the cyber specialist was presenting now online trade occupies 90% of the numbers. So you can just imagine now we haven't much focus on that area. And our law enforcement agencies have almost no idea on that, except in the region, I would say India has better capacity compared to other countries. And then how they know, and the law, the existing legal mechanism of each of the countries, they are not equipped for fighting the cyber crime. And within the country, cyber crime and wildlife related crime are not prioritized because we talk about the animal, we talk about the species. And in other crime, there is at least victim is there. For in this crime, there is no victim going to the court or going to the, taking the case. So in all those things really have created difficult situation in the region. And as I said, 4 key feature of changing trend in South Asia, which applies to live animals. Initially, there were not much import of the live animals. We have seen, African gibbon or the gorilla or coming from Africa, lemur coming from Africa to India, Nepal, and other regions. As I said, in the falcon going from Bangladesh, from India, from Nepal, from Nepal is all, from Afghanistan, all going to Middle East and Iran, and then maybe ultimately going to Europe and Asia. Very recent study also showed the biggest import user of this trade was Europe. And we know America is already there. And there is little work done in demand reduction part. So the voice from the producer country where there are more number of species, biodiversity, now we are facing the challenge. We should raise the voice. There should be more engagement, more international funding or INGOs engagement in demand reduction in the demand country. Unless there is demand, people will find a different way. And another trend is, as I said in my presentation, there are no cases now. There are no known cases of seizure for the known species like tiger skin, tiger bone, or rhinoceros bone. Now what we heard about pangolin scale now, and we heard about live turtle and hybrid turtle. And it's very, very interesting. All these birds and these mammals or reptiles coming from Latin America to Sri Lanka, and ultimately they will go to India and other maybe for birds going to Pakistan. So and another important things that we need to develop capacity is this online trade supported by financial crime with the use of cryptocurrency, with the use of hawala in many countries where there is no trace. You cannot trace. And then there was new apps, decentralized apps. Very interesting, where people cannot get anything. Just you open the app, you open your mobile and download the apps, then you start talking. You don't need phone number. Means no trace, no digital trace. Means it's really difficult to track down by the capacity of the people we have here, because they never know about it. So, and these are the area where we can work. And then interesting also CMS, because I saw many these migratory species, very specific birds that are engagement of CMS. And then the countries from the region, there are very few countries are the member of CMS. So maybe you can explain me why this. I don't know. I put initially why this illegal bird taking kinds of thing is not recognized in literature in the wording as a it's a wildlife crime, and there is punishment for it. And I think if we go through this mechanism, can also have some positive implication. I communicate to the local people. I think we should work on that. That's how I feel. Therefore, I said the region new emerging trends, South Asia consumer now, using of financial, cyber financial crime link now, and there is crime convergence, and then online trade, live pet trade. Those are the key, focus area where we need more. Pet trade, obviously, majority of the birds. In Kathmandu also, I used to see several people selling birds in the street, but there are very few. We believe that they have shifted to online platform. It's easy using the parcel, a parcel, and then they go in number of thousands, so very difficult to trace them.
That's a very worrying development indeed. Thank you. Would any of the other speakers also like to comment on this question, or there is quite a lively discussion going on in the chat? Perhaps I can just, Rajendra, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to ask in person any of the questions that you've raised in the chat? Or I can read this out. So these are questions directed to Ayub and Jamshed. Rajendra is asking, please go ahead.
Hi, Catherine. Okay, today
Hi,
we are lucky.
nice to
we
see
have
you.
a representative from International Crane Foundation, Dr. Mahendra Sesta.
Welcome. Please go ahead.
Right. Okay. First, Mahendra, then I'll take over. Yeah.
Okay, and as I have put my questions to Jamshed and Ayub, that at the International Crane Foundation, we're very much concerned about this illegal killing and live trapping of demoiselle crane and Eurasian crane during their migration. And we have been discussing about this with some of the government officials. And I was earlier this year, I was in Islamabad for a short period of time. So we discussed about this with the WWF as well. So, my question to you, again, I think, you are trying your best, but at the same time, whether you feel that the law enforcement agencies are doing their best to control this, or either anything else that we can do to control this. I totally understand it's a cultural issues in KP and Balochistan, but at the same time, they do have hundreds of cranes in captivity. So how do you control the size? Because many of them must be adding to their population from the wild capture.
Well, thank you, Mahendraji. Yes, and I remember we met in Islamabad, and we discussed these issues. You are very much right that the trapping of cranes, especially in Balochistan and Sindh province and KP province in Pakistan, is mostly cultural issue, and the people, they have belief, and they have a tradition of long in the past. They keep these cranes in their houses, and also they give as a gift to their friends. And there is also a reported practice of the captive breeding of these cranes in Pakistan. So, but a few years ago, we had an attempt to address this issue, and especially in the KP region, we approached these people, especially the poachers, through their local influentials. But after that, we did not have much funding to continue these activities. But as in my presentation, I mentioned that currently we have some funding from US government through our illegal wildlife project, and we are focusing on these issues. And number one, we are enhancing the capacity of the provincial wildlife departments, and we are working them. We are providing them the smart trainings, and also they are implementing this smart technique and in these areas. And we are also planning to sensitize these communities through religious leaders and the local influentials. And the other good thing is that I mean, we are collecting the data now of the last 5 years, especially the seizure and the raids of the wildlife department and the confiscations. And we are in the process of analyzing this data, and like within 1 month we will be able to collect and analyze all this data of at least 5 years. And we have seen a very positive trend of enforcement from the law enforcement agencies in these areas, because there are previously there were no such records and the practice, but now the wildlife departments, they are imposing fine to these people. They are sending challans of these people. So there is a positive trend, but but the other issue that we have in the country is the online trade, because the online trade of the falcons and the cranes and some other species is also very much active nowadays, because it's a very easy way and platform for the poachers and the trappers. For this, we are we have conducted a study and we have collected the data of last 5 years of all the different platforms and what kind of species are traded and are sold on these platforms. And we are writing to the PTA, Pakistan Telecommunication Authority of the Pakistan, to ban these social media platforms and the websites. So in this way, we are working with different stakeholders, but as I said, that it was a long tradition, so it will take time to control it.
Thank you. Can I just pass the floor now to Ayub for some brief words, and then we can end the webinar, please.
Thank you, Catherine. In our case, and from our experience on the ground for wildlife crime mitigations, we believe it's a complicated issue. We immediately believe that a community awareness would be effective among the local, key informants and villagers in that area. But as a combined with that solution, awareness and working with the local authorities also would be necessary to help the mitigation of the situation. And toward working with the official authorities, we have been able to have a nationwide ban on hunting with the new authorities across the country. But actual implementation of that ban on hunting and law enforcement, it has long way, and it requires primarily lots of awareness and capacity building, but also working with different directions to coordinate different players on the ground around the issue. But primarily, we believe working with the communities would be the most direct and shortcut to mitigate and to some extent the situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So may I?
Yes, of course. And then
okay,
we'll
first
close.
of all, thank you, Ayub and Jamshid, for all this, because Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Afghanistan is not an easy place to work. Hats up to you guys, because the ground situation is not that great. Just one in the Nepal case, the illegal bird trade. Now, related to religion, it is sold within Kathmandu Valley, within the jurisdiction of many of the authorities. And it is embedded or mimicked or in a disguise of the pet trade. And for this, and how Sawan could do it, Dr. Sir can work, or how we can encourage the government to work, might be an issue. Using the volunteers who can identify the bird. Frankly, there are very few people who can identify bird in the government sector. So you need volunteers who can identify birds in this. How these volunteers can contribute to stop the illegal trade. One is in a religious purpose, another is for eating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this has been a very rich conversation and discussion. Thank you. And it's good food for thought. And so I look forward to being able to reach out to you all in the future and also have discussions within our member organizations as to what are the next steps we might be able to take and how we can engage within the existing structures, SAWIN and CMS task forces, and also to continue to support all the work that you are doing. As I mentioned, there's been some lively discussion in the chat. Please do use this platform as a way to make new contacts. If there are people who you have not managed to get the email addresses of, please just feel welcome to reach out to us, myself, Dr. Ramesh, Khurshid and Jeremy, and we will be able to connect you as well. So we will be having the next webinar, the fourth webinar of this series on the 3rd of December. This will be looking at the International Water Bird Census, and we will send a reminder email about that as well. And this, as I mentioned, will be with a Russian translation. So thank you once again very much for your participation. Thank you so much for the great presentations. Of course, this is a really tragic topic. Quite sad. We were both sitting here like tut-tutting and being very sad about the really quite shocking photos. But I hope very much that we can all take courage and take hope from the community here and also from the actions that are being taken and have hope for the future. So with those words, once again, thank you so much and wishing you a lovely evening and see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to all for the great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.